Next, approval of the minutes for November 20.
Bernie,
Yes,
Bernie, I'd like to make a statement before we start.
good.
I received what I saw as a threatening email from our township manager. It was related to the issue of posting the contract or not. It says it would not be appropriate to post a contract that has not been signed, nor is it appropriate to have my contract debated in public. I have retained an attorney, and if you would like her to explain to you the legal reasons that I will not post it, I will be happy to send you a letter and put you on notice. So I wrote back and asked, what does put you on notice mean? I got, as usual, no reply from the manager. I think this is a definitive example of the attitude of the manager towards a supervisor. Therefore, it must also happen from time to time to a resident. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, approval of the minutes for November 20. Do I have a motion?
Make the motion to, oh, where to go? The wrong one. That's it. All right, make the motion to approve the minutes of the November 20th, 2023 meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, next announcements. I have none. Anything further? Seeing none. Reports, police report. Corporal?
The November 2023 monthly police report is as follows. Training was advanced traffic stops and active shooter. Summary totals for the month. Number of calls for service was 153. Number of crimes investigated was 12. Number of arrests was 2. Those included theft of services and disorderly conduct. Number of traffic stops was 45. And the number of accidents investigated was 10. That is the conclusion of the report.
And how does that compare to previous months? Just from your experience. Sounds like a busy month.
Yeah, it's a lot of self-initiated stuff, traffic stops and whatnot. But, yeah, as the winter months come in, there's more calls for service, like trees down, more accidents and such, and a lot more weather-related incidents happen as well.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Next, treasurer's report.
Your fund had a total balance of $150,868.35. General fund has a balance of $891,319.93. Open space $3,632,878.12. The liquid fuels fund has $97,781.58. The capital road fund has $2,924,763.29. Capital equipment fund is $2,429,084.61. The capital equipment fund has $189,115.54. The sewer fund is $26,960.76. And the rebuild fund has $814,090.52 for a total balance of funds of $11,136,862.70.
Okay. I'll entertain comment. Any comment? John?
I'll be 1634 Hilltop Road. The summary of funds, which of course is the cash balance, but last month there was 12,349,000. This month there's only 11,136,000, which is a reduction of $1.2 million. Should we worry about that? Is that something of interest?
No, we had a lot of expenses.
Well, I know in the general fund, there was a $200,000 net income. So yes, there's a lot of expenses, but was it outweighed by income? There's a $200,000 profit there, net income. So, but we're down $1 million. We're down $1.2 million.
Well, John, these are the numbers that are on our bank statements. This is the money that's in the bank. At the last day of the month, that's what was in the bank.
Yes.
Open
But we
space
can't,
principal.
I can't verify that in any way whatsoever. And it's sort of, there's normally these error-prone reports. And so to have these numbers that you can't verify, it just makes me,
Well, they're on the
Worried.
bank statements. I verified them.
okay. All right.
John, the open space or principal payment came due. So that's $500,000.
Yeah, the open space, okay,
600.
well, that went the other way. In the open space, the balance was 3,000,004 last month. Now it's 3,000,006. So that $200,000 gain right there is offset by other things that make the 1,000,002 loss. So anyway, but it just seems like a lot of big numbers and nobody understands what they are.
I understand. that.
John, Jackie says she understands. Maybe she could explain further.
I just did. I get the bank statement, I do the bank reconciliation. The last day of the month, I do the bank reconciliation. The number that's in the bank is what's on the report. So the numbers on summary funds are exactly what's in the bank on the last day of the month.
Yes, I agree. But if somebody takes money out of the bank, you won't pick it up. But if you say, oh, well, we had income in the general fund at 200,000, and so our cash should go up by 200,000, there's a correlation.
Well, there's.
But if you say, oh, in the general fund, the income went down.
$4,000 payment for the bond notes, in the general fund.
Okay.
Can I just make a recommendation that maybe we can allow some time for John before the meeting to go over these to his satisfaction? Because I think it's very hard to answer these questions here without everything in front of you, and it's very hard for everyone to follow along. You know,
What's
you
even
say one thing
harder
and she said,
is
it would be nice if we could just do this outside of here and you can come to the meeting and say, I disagree with whatever, and if you feel that way, or maybe you'll resolve your problem. Does anyone feel like that's something we could do?
Sure.
I'm not.
The issue here, one issue here is that this number gets posted after the close of business on Friday night. So what you say is ideal, but there's no time to do that. I would have to come in here. I would have to spend the weekend looking through these numbers, come in here Monday and talk to her, and it's too late to change anything for the meeting. Right? I mean, and you've asked her before to post them before Friday night, and it doesn't happen. The date on the statements is December 1. They're available. They just won't get posted. That's no explanation for that. One other question. We hired an accountant to go over the 2022 books to get them ready for the auditor. Is there any update on that?
He's coming on Wednesday to start doing the work.
Oh, he hasn't started yet.
He has not.
Okay.
I have a question about that. I thought he intended to be. I'm sorry. I forgot I thought he intended to be done by the end of the year. If he's not starting till the 20th, is that still the plan?
He had said by January 15th was what his goal is. He said possibly by the end of the year, January 15th was his furthest out date. That was his plan.
So he's still on that schedule.
I'll have to ask when he comes out on Wednesday.
I was surprised because I thought that was the purpose of us appointing
Well,
him.
Kathy sent him the contract the day after the meeting. And then we didn't hear from him, and I followed up a couple days later, and then he got back to me Monday. Yep. He said that come out on Wednesday.
Thanks for the clarification.
With 2024 Pottstown Pike. Maybe a suggestion. You keep all of these books and financial records on QuickBooks, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you just put them up on the website, then everybody, John, and whoever else can just pull them up and read them at home at their leisure whenever the time
Well.
fancy fit strikes them.
To cut all of the checks. Happy was having critical problems. They didn't get done until 4:30 on Friday.
Okay, well,
We were here then doing the expenditure report. We got it up as quickly as we could. The bank statements don't come in until the middle of the month, even though it closes at the end of the month. And then I have to reconcile all of these funds. So it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little bit of time.
okay, but it doesn't take 30 days, right?
Well, we finished the bank recs last week and we encountered some problems, with things that weren't adding up. So we had to go back and fix some things and then.
How much time is spent by yourself in a given week on all this budgetary stuff?
I do so many things in a day. I couldn't give you a time frame for that. I'm here 8
Seriously?
hours a day. I work from 8:30.
You don't know what percentage of your day is spent on this particular type of stuff.
I don't, because I get interrupted with phone calls and people all day long. I couldn't tell you exactly how much time I spend on any one given thing.
Well, I'm deeply distressed that you can't account for that time in any reasonable
I never
fashion.
thought about it. It's just not
Yeah,
busy. I do it.
Maybe we need to start looking at that kind of stuff down here. I mean, if you work for any sort of industry or business, they're gonna want to look at your, whatever you choose to call it, your labor card, whatever, and it's gonna say, you know, what you did all week long, how many hours you spent doing X, Y, Z, P, Q, R. You issue a billing statement, right? Probably itemized, isn't it? Sure. It's probably not just like, I spent some time, I don't know what it is. No, you have to issue a statement, you know, that's fairly detailed. Now, I'm not even looking for that level of granularity, but you should have some idea. I spent half my time, a quarter of my time, 20 minutes a day, divide into 8, you know, do a little math.
I don't. I
Well,
honestly don't.
that's disturbing to me.
I
And
think
I'm
it's
gonna
disturbing.
put that onto the board, that's disturbing, that we got employees that are working here that we can't account for what they're doing, or they can't even account for what they're doing in a given 1 week period. That's distressing. And that is lack of oversight. That's what the three of you are charged to do here. Oversee this township. And when we don't have any accountability like this, we have no earthly idea, according to you.
Well, I can tell you, I work 8 hours a day doing township business from 8:30 to 4:30, and I spend my weekends doing work at the township.
That's lovely, but we'd like a little understanding of what that actually entails. Because this,
It's like you- solicitors-
I'm not interested in the laundry list. I'm interested in a breakdown of how much time you spend doing these various things with
I
some
don't have-
rough estimate,
I
you know,
don't have a
something.
rough estimate.
Well, maybe as the supervisors, you can encourage our employees to come up with that sort of accountability. Think that's possible? Or am I just dreaming here?
I think it helps to have the question in order to get the answer. And
There's
now
the
we've asked the
question.
question, and maybe it'll be easier for her to identify being more mindful of what she's doing and be able to
Yeah,
tell us that
I
next time.
think so.
Okay,
Otherwise, maybe I should apply for a position here. And when you all ask me what I do all day long, I'm going to say, well, you know, some of this and some of that and a little bit of that and some of that. And I'm not really sure about what it all is, but trust me, I'm doing it all.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. I think that this understanding of how an employee's time is spent. I'm sorry, they say it's not clear through the mask. It's especially important as we consider whether the treasurer manager job is 1 or 2. I think, and I agree.
Treasurer, did you ever ask him to give you any?
Jackie,
he wasn't doing the.
Jackie.
bookkeeping.
Jackie, John was treasurer in title only because we needed to have a treasurer. Kathy was not comfortable with it, so John was appointed treasurer. But the only thing he did in the treasury department, because you were in finance, taking care of the day-to-day operations, was when a document required a signature on the treasurer line. That's what
He
he
was
did.
still responsible for overseeing the treasury. He's the one who hired all your different bookkeepers who did a terrible job.
I don't think we need to debate
Really?
this. Let's move on.
George. Hi, George Delcinos, 1415 Hollow. This is just following up on John's question. I think it's simple, but from a, you know,
just top level view, would the fund balance from last month to this month difference be the expenditures and then whatever receipts we have?
Not necessarily. It doesn't, it's not an even cut like that. Because you have things that haven't cleared, you have things that were paid and then refunded, you have different things that are coming in and out, so it does change the expenditures a little bit, and the bank recs are what tells you what's in the bank when you check off all of the outstanding.
So these are things that are basically in transit.
Yeah, but you know, the bank statements that we get have a clear picture of everything, and that's what this reflects.
Okay, because there's $1 million in expenditures. I think you said,
604,000 of that was a bond note payment.
no, I understand that. I mean, roughly $1 million. He said we went down in general fund or total funds about 1.2. So, I mean, that's a big chunk of it, but I don't think, I guess receipts aren't in here, right? There's nowhere in what we publish are receipts. Oh, they're included in as basically negative expenditures, or where would I see receipts? Or is that in the?
Oh, you know, I can do an expense and.
No, I just, from a top level, if you say, you know, so,
I can do that, for your profit and loss for revenues and expenditures.
well, I think you do have profit and loss in here.
And that's like, there's a previous year one that takes this year's in comparison to where you were last year, that's the previous year comparison. Then the profit and loss shows you, all of your revenues and all of your expenditures.
Okay.
For the year to date.
Okay. All right, well, it's more complicated than I thought, but thank you.
You can come into, I'll sit down and show you what you're looking at, so maybe.
No, I mean, I understand. I just thought from a quick overview, if you see $1 million change in funds from last month and $1 million in expenditures, there you go. It balances out. But it's not the case. Thank you.
Christina.
A real quick question, Christine Casey, 10 Forest Glen Drive. When Mr. Helwig talked about, you know, itemizing people's time and all the different things that we do, how many days a week is the township manager position?
5.
5. Okay, just checking. How many days a week was the previous manager in?
2.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie McVicker, 407 Black Horse Road. I was in a management position in accounting and small businesses in Chester County for over 40 years, and I was never asked to break down my time to specifics.
Thank you.
As a manager, you're given responsibilities and you're expected to accomplish them. If you don't, then you're called to task. But breaking stuff down is for way lower level employees. And Jackie has answered my emails at 11 o'clock at night. So she's working way more than 40 hours, I'm sure. But having said all that, I'm just going to say what I've said before. Finance committee, please, somebody to meet with Jackie so that we don't spend time on this, John in particular, nitpicking over stuff that are legitimate questions, but can be worked out before this. I can't say one way or the other, but bank statements coming in the middle of the month seems extremely unlikely. Can't you electronically download at the end of the month? Most banks give you that ability. Couldn't you do the bank rec much sooner?
Some of them we can.
Okay. I'm just thinking if you could do that, and then we could set the 15th or somewhere in the middle of the month, every month before this meeting, so we can work through some of these issues.
But we have to cut checks all the way up until the last minute, otherwise.
But why would checks now impact November 30th? Numbers.
Because, yeah, bills come in frequently, like we cut the checks off on Monday and the very next day Kathy got like another 20 bills in. So we want to get them paid, otherwise they're more than 30 days out and then you get late fees.
I know, but those wouldn't impact the November 30th numbers, would they?
Well, yeah, they were cut in November, like ran the checks from October 15th to November 20th, I think, last month.
I know, but
But why was that?
if checks were cut this week in December, why are they impacting November's numbers?
Oh, I'm talking about this. So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Again, I just think we could address many of these issues. And again, this isn't about you, Jackie. It's about what happened in the past. I think if the committee or ad hoc or whatever you want to call it was set up for John in particular to have his questions answered before these meetings, a lot of the stuff that happened in the past wouldn't have happened.
Thank you.
Jamie, I just wanted to mention to you though, I appreciate your perspective on not micromanaging about the tasks. And I, in theory, agree with you, but I do feel in this case that, it is something that Jackie has been asked to start looking at, that treasurer position. What, is this a part-time? Is this a full-time? So, while I don't want to be like, I need to know where you are every minute of the day, because I know she's working extremely hard. It is important that she does break down the tasks of what we need this position to be.
Yeah, good point. In this circumstance, that makes a lot of sense.
I do think we need to think about how we talk about the accounting department position, whether it's an accountant or a bookkeeper. The treasurer term is one that's mandated. We have to have second-class township code. We have to have a treasurer. There are certain forms and documents we get in that require the chairman of the board, the township secretary, and the township treasurer. That doesn't need to be the bookkeeper. It can be somebody who's the bookkeeper. But so I think just being careful about how we describe that, because Jackie essentially is carrying three positions, if you look at it that way. She is the titular treasurer. She's responsible for all of the financial operations, and she's the designated manager. So thank you.
Barry.
Barry Deliberate, 1012 Pottstown Pike, Chester Springs. Real quick on that treasurer thing. I hope you get a separate treasurer, but it is a part-time position. For some bizarre reason, it became a full-time position for a number of years, which it really didn't need to be. That was a total milk run. History proved it way back in our busiest times when we had several sewer plants, things like that. So there's all sorts of billing going out on that. We had developing going on, a lot of development back in the 2000s, with Hankin and all sorts of things going on around here. We had a guy in a wheelchair that came in about 20 hours a week that was the president of Downingtown National Bank that did it, and he did it very well. And now that we don't have the sewer plants anymore, they've all been taken away. There's less billing, there's less problems with that. It's a part-time position. It doesn't need to be $100,000 position. That's absolutely insane. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Tom, you're already up. You were already up.
Yeah.
You forgot
Your point would be,
that
I'm gonna respond to something that was just said.
said president meetings ago about jumping up and down all the time.
Never when I was here.
Well,
Well, I think we need some clarity, because I'm gonna have to address what you all and Jamie talked about the concept of micromanagement. I'm not asking for micromanagement. Lord knows. And I'll tell you something, wherein you may have worked for some place down the street here, another government job. I've worked for companies all over the world. Europe, Asia, Middle East, all different foreign companies, plenty of companies here in the United States. And as a percentage of what you spend your time doing, this is a breakdown. For hourly employees, the manager draws all that up and says, here's what your responsibilities are, here's what your roles are, and it's broken down. Managers are expected to have that sort of a scalar, as they call it, on their job descriptions also. I'm not asking what you spend every second of the day doing on every day. That would be a concept of micromanagement. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for some rough idea of I spent 20% of my time on a monthly basis or a weekly basis doing X. I can tell you, I can show you on all of my job apps where all that had to be explained as senior management. It's not an imposition. It's not micromanagement. And I resent the mischaracterization of what I said. Have that.
Thank you, Tom.
okay, moving on to the bills list.
Expenditures for the general fund were $989,748.57. And open space, $189.51, for a total of $989,938.08.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the expenditures list for all township funds in the amount of $989,938.08.
did you hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any comments? Seeing none, all in, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm looking at the expenditure summary,
Mhm.
November 6th. 16th to December 15th. Is this what you're referring to, Jackie?
Yes,
This, in terms of open space bills, it says $189, not a, I thought I heard a bigger number from you.
not for open space. That was for the interest payment.
Interest payment on,
We paid $604,000 from the general fund for a bond note.
for open space?
No. for
No,
the general
okay, all right, so it wasn't the open
It
space
was not
bond.
the open space
And
I misspoke.
when do we pay that?
at the end of December.
Okay, so the interest payment and the,
What happens is Del Valle takes the interest payments out every month. They automatically withdraw it from the appropriate fund. And in December, they withdraw the principal payments from the
Okay.
funds where they're supposed to be withdrawn.
so this $189 is the interest.
Was an
payment.
interest payment.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Let's see, moving on, managers report.
So we revamped the budget, we looked at some things, and fortunately, what we found out was that Del Valle had given us 4 schedules for bond note payments that were due. And when we started to look at the ratio of how much money we owed and how much we were paying back, it didn't seem to work out properly. So I called Jeff Calhoun at Del Valle and asked him to go over the schedules with me so I could figure out what was going on. And it turned out that 2 of those schedules were bonds that were consolidated in 2021 by the previous manager when he refloated the bonds. So it took our payments on the bond notes from $1.1 million down to $249,000. So that was a big deal in the fund. So once we got that clarification, I was able to make that adjustment in the budget. So we're balanced in the budget. So that's all I have to say about the budget.
And anything else?
I gave you. Okay, we need to, I gave you guys a new fee schedule that we need to consider. We are, not breaking even on our permitting process. We're actually losing money, and it's normal procedure that you break even on these things so that resident taxpayers are not paying for other people's permitting and inspections. So I got together with Matt Spellman and Christina and Kathy and Casey, and we went over the fee schedule and figured out what their fees cost for inspections and other permitting. And we changed the schedule to reflect a more accurate amount. And keep in mind that your fee schedule has not been changed in, I think, over a decade. So it's been a long time coming, and it doesn't seem right that taxpayer money is being used to subsidize other people's permitting. So that's why I'm making the suggestion that we change the fee schedule. And you'll have to go through it, and you may have some objections and some questions. So I think that's something we need to look at for the reorganization.
Anything else?
The trail grants, I spoke to Jessica Adams at LTL, and she said that trail grants expire on June 15th, 2024. So she would like to put the trail bid out in early February with a start date of March 1st or April 1st so that we can get the project done by June 15th.
This is for fellowship chair.
It's for fellowship trail, yes.
And is that one still a start date contingent on the long-eared bats, or has that been solved?
I think that that's still outstanding, but she
Okay.
believes that we need to start moving forward because we don't want to lose that grant money.
I absolutely agree. This project's been going on for 14 years or something. The other question is, some of our grants were held up because our audit was not complete. Is this one of those?
No, I don't believe so. This is, they've been waiting to get all the easements signed, and we're working on our last one. We're almost there. Dave had to make some changes to the description of the fence, and once we get those documents signed, we'll be ready to go.
And I think that only affects you at the time of accepting the grant anyway. So, if we're not settled by
Well, I'm
March.
sure we will be. I mean,
Be
they
really
made
concerned.
changes. We just,
Yeah.
I just gotta get her to sign it, so.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so once we get those, that last easement in place, we're ready to go.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
we already talked about the CPA, and the QuickBooks cleanup. Next on the agenda, you have resolution 19/2023 for the workers' compensation coverage for Ludwig's Corner Fire Department and the fire police.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, do you want to bring that?
No.
Yeah, I thought you wanted to bring it.
Yeah, good.
I thought Kathy did that.
All right, so. This one here, number 8. There's been a change in the agenda. We had something inadvertently stacked in here. So number 8, talking about resolution 2023. So that's no longer on the agenda. Okay,
Well, wait,
That's, no,
correct,
that's,
isn't it?
yeah, that's for.
It
to set
hasn't
our millage
changed.
for next year.
Yeah, that's
So-
the thing. We have to talk about that.
You have to pass the resolution
Same millage.
saying that you're not changing the millage. Yeah.
Right, but
that's done now or during the work?
You do that
Oh,
now.
oh,
So that they
okay.
could have.
we normally
Forget everything I said. Let's move forward.
haven't,
I gave you the wrong answer.
That's great.
I'm trying to ask, haven't we normally set the tax rate at the reorganization?
That's what I thought. So
It's always in December.
Set it with the budget.
set it with the budget. Okay, okay,
Which would make sense
Yeah.
because the budget relies on it.
very good. Okay. Moving on to old business, approved township manager contract. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for the township manager for Jackie Gunther. And I'd also like to make a comment that I apologize at our last meeting that we did discuss that we would post that and it became a problem that Jackie was very uncomfortable with us actually posting that, and I do feel that we supervisors are capable of approving her contract. I already mentioned the nuts and bolts of it in that last meeting, so I don't think there's a lot of mystery and we could discuss it, but I understand that it was very important to her not to post that.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
We'll wait.
It is too late for that. What was the reason the contract couldn't get posted? If Jackie told you what to do,
It's not.
I don't
an
buy
official
it.
Document until it's signed and approved. It is not an official township document until it is signed and approved.
okay,
It should not be.
the budget is
until
not
it's done.
signed and
John,
approved. All
We
these things.
we
aren't
agreed to do
signed
that when
and
she wasn't in the room to object to it, so I'm gonna give her that latitude that I think
So,
that.
so you're gonna post it, and
Respect
she
that.
objects to it, so now you won't make it available? I mean, who's running this place?
Were any of the other managers' contracts posted? I don't believe they were.
What?
None of the other managers' contracts were posted.
I'm not, so what?
It's not normal policy to do
It's
that.
not-
I would have
No,
liked to have shared it,
I
but
wouldn't.
I respect that that she felt that way.
I don't
Say
think there was a policy previously. I'm not sure whether Erica had a contract. We did have a contract for John. I don't know that Jim had a contract because that's sort of in the dark ages now. But most recently, we have had a contract, and so we're setting up one. It's got nothing to, our interest in the contract is not for the person involved in the contract. It is for the township. Is this contract what we want for the township? The other thing is, I was one of the people who made the commitment at the workshop on the 4th of December. I turned to Dave and I said, can those changes be made tomorrow? Can this be posted the next day? And the answer was yes. And here we are talking about it 2 weeks later. And I feel that we have let down our residents because we had made that commitment. And I, as one supervisor, cannot follow through on that.
John, I also want to share with you that although we are offering her a contract, she is still an at-will employee,
So what?
an at-will employee. Yeah,
Okay,
we're
so-
not, there's nothing here that says that we're giving her this position for 3 years or anything like that. And there's really nothing tricky about the contract. It's really just making a statement that we want to give her a certain amount of money and we want her to stay with us.
I agree with all that, but, and you say there's nothing tricky, nothing about it. So those aren't reasons that it shouldn't be disclosed. I mean, if it's a routine, run-of-the-mill, same old contract, then you have a reason to keep it secret. I don't know what it is. And will it be available after it's signed? Sure. Wow. Okay. Was there any agreement when Jackie became assistant manager or manager?
Interim is the word to go
We would
with.
give her this job?
No, we designated it as an interim to get
As an
a
interim manager.
get a good look.
And we never
Her
interviewed
capabilities.
anybody, we never did anything.
Well, I was offered another position as a manager in another township, and this board asked me to stay here and be your manager, and I agreed to do that, provided after my probationary period, they gave me a contract and fair compensation, and that's what they're doing.
Okay, well, I didn't know that you were offered this and the board made a deal and all this stuff.
Wasn't it?
That wasn't ever disclosed.
It was not the full board. And what were the criteria for the probationary period?
I don't, normally it's 90 days, you said.
Yeah, but it's not just,
What did you want? to
I
see
mean,
happen?
performance wise, was there something we wanted done? Like having the budget done, like having the audit, which we already knew was late, accelerated.
I
So
have
were
no
there,
responsibility for that audit, Sarah. There's nothing I could have done to help it get along. It was the auditor who waited to the last
Jackie.
to say that he couldn't do it. I
Jackie,
did not do the QuickBooks in 2022.
but you came on board in October of 2022.
Right, so I was here for a
who was-
month and a half.
Who was doing the QuickBooks?
Prior to that, you
For,
had.
no, Joe, I'm trying to ask you, you said you did not do QuickBooks in 2022. So did nobody do them from the middle of December, from the middle of October till
I
the
did it
end
from the
of
middle
December?
October Till the end of December.
Okay,
But nobody took care of anything in QuickBooks for the first 9 months. They weren't reconciled, things weren't entered properly, things were allocated wrong, and that's the problem with your 2022 QuickBooks. Nothing in there is accurate.
except for the last 2.5 months.
Which, I mean, I think we have to call into, the point that that's part of why this budget has been such a trial.
Yes.
Because you're pulling numbers that aren't accurate, that we know aren't accurate, and trying to reconcile them and make them more factual.
And
It's
we,
very hard to pull a budget when you don't have anything.
Yeah,
to
and-
compare to action.
and I recognize that those are factors that made it difficult for Barbara Kate Thornton to do the audit, and why they came to us and said, we need you to fix up 2022 before we complete this. And they came and had a meeting with the 4 of us, or was Kathy there taking minutes, so 5 of us, in very early October. And now we have guys starting work on Wednesday to help us look at this problem. That's the middle of December, just for calendar impaired people. It's not clear to me that we lay this blame on anybody else than ourselves, that a previous manager left, a person who was our bookkeeper moved into a treasurer position, became our manager, and we should have had the oversight. I agree, the board is responsible for all of these things, but we rely on our manager and our solicitor to give us good, solid advice. And we did not know what kind of trouble we were in until October, when Barbara King Thornton asked for a conference call with us, and which they said the township was in legal jeopardy because of not having our audit done, and that our manager was separately in legal jeopardy. I think that's where we still are, because we haven't even started the repair of the 2022 books.
Dave,
Yes.
legal jeopardy?
Well,
I'm not personally in legal jeopardy.
I don't know what's meant by legal jeopardy. It's,
But that was a quote from people we were talking to.
my understanding is that, your ability to get certain grants is impaired, while, the audit for 2022 remains unfinished. I personally had a phone call with, the administrator of DCND, DCND, who explained their process to me. Is basically what I took away from that conversation, that was in November, was that as long as we show that we're making progress, then they would continue our status and our ability to get grants. So we need to provide a report to them beginning of 2024 as to where it stands with regard to our audit. And it appears to me that if the CPA you hired is going to complete the QuickBooks, and then you're in the process of your existing auditor to finish that audit, then they can give us an estimate of when they plan to complete it, the audit, then that should be sufficient to satisfy the concerns of DC&D. So as long as we stay on that track and we get this done soon, I think our ability to get those grants that could be impacted by it will not be affected. So I'm not as concerned as others may be in this room. But we need to finish the process, get the audit complete.
Norm, could you give us the correct agency acronym?
Well,
DC,
there's DCED.
Department
of Community and Economic
Development, right.
DCNR is
Right.
Department of Conservation and Restoration.
And they both have this requirement that we need to meet.
I'm not certain, but it's likely they operate at the upper level very similarly.
Right.
So
They're
it's
state
not
agencies.
surprising.
Thank
They're
you.
state agencies.
Yeah, right. Any of those type of fundings.
Right.
Sorry, Township engineer.
Pardon?
Township engineer, LCO consultant.
Oh, township engineer, I thought you were from DCNR,
No.
He's Norm.
as a government official. Okay,
Yeah, he's replacing Ed.
okay, further to this, so there may have been some understanding that Jackie would be generally, would soon be general manager. 2023 worries me because I think virtually every month the treasurer's report is published. And then on Monday, there's some revised numbers. We get emails and it gets revised again and again. The budget, there was a draft budget that said we're going to lose $1 million. And then it got revised and we're going to make 200,000. But I think it's error filled. And so I'll tell you some of that when we get to that. But I would worry that we should do a cleaner job to get an audit done for this year. That it's just been too messy.
Well, John, I was working with the auditors and all through the month of September, I would email our auditor and say, where are you with the audit report? He'd say, I'm working on it. You'll have it by the end of the month. And this went on every week in September. And then the last week in September, when I demanded he give me a report, is when he called this special meeting and it came to light that he had not done anything on the audit report. And here's why I think it happened. I think he thought that the Markham was going to do a full forensic audit and he was just going to sign off on it and walk away. That didn't happen. He went on vacation for 2 weeks, sent this young guy to our office who was way in over his head and couldn't figure out even how to open QuickBooks for the first day. So that's where the audit stands. That's not on me. I did everything I was supposed to do.
Is there any reason, I mean, the audit was due April 1. So
Mhm.
you say in October?
Because he wanted to wait until Markham was done their audit before he would do
But-
his audit.
When was Markham done? I would say
February.
February or March.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
he was done in March of the year,
Right,
not
and I
September.
emailed the auditors and said they're done the report, and then they got back to me with their schedule. Because they have other townships they had already scheduled to do their audits.
so sometime in April, after they knew that Markham was not going to come through with a full audit, they notified you of a schedule that they wouldn't be able to get back to it until September.
Yes, because they had other audits already in process and other dates scheduled, because they do a lot of different municipal auditing.
Okay,
I do think it would be good if the board had known that ahead of time.
another,
No, until he told me.
another question, you were talking about this $600,000 bond payment. And apparently everything got refinanced in 2021.
Yes,
And when the auditors did their audit, they put a schedule in there of the payments due and every year. And it wasn't 600,000. It's when they did their audit, they had a different schedule. And so we now paid 600,000. Payments are gonna go down to 200,000.
okay. Del Val automatically takes the money out of our account. We don't actually make the payments. They withdraw it. That's the way they set these bond notes up. So I don't know what schedule they were looking at, but I called Jeff Calhoun, who's one of the head people over at Del Val. And we went over the schedules and he explained to me where the confusion was. And we got to the bottom of it. So yes, we did make the correction, but I was going on information that they had provided me. That were more bonds than we actually had.
Okay, when you say we did make the correction, they took out 600,000, that was correct.
Yes,
Okay,
for this year,
yeah, next year it'll be 200,000.
yes.
All right.
Barry.
I'll make this as quick as I possibly can. Look, the bottom line is in this entire debate that we're going over is the fact that for 3 years we had a hell of a show with John Granger. Okay. John Granger was a bad manager on a high note. He was voted in by, okay, I defended Sarah last week, not this week, voted in by Sarah and Bernie. Dana got it by adoption only. Okay. All three of them repeatedly defended Granger, a man that had a well-known, documented, internet-based record of leaving municipalities under questionable financial circumstances. But they defended him. All three of them defended him for a long time. So the bottom line is this guy did a lot of things he shouldn't have done. We saw it in the audience. We knew what was going on, talking to him, you could tell. But the board up here, they didn't seem to get it. Dana gets passed for me on this one. The other two do not, because all you had to do was a little bit of history search and you would have known. And really, I liken this to a friend of mine that built a model airplane, and he was down in Daytona Beach, and he wasn't real good at flying it. So a friend of his who was really good decides to go out and fly it. So he gets out there and they're flying the whole thing, and the guy does a couple loops with it, and then he does his hammer drop where he takes the thing up and it comes down like this, and he's spinning it and he's flipping the switches and nothing's happening. So he hands it to my buddy Woodsy and goes, "Here, you take it in the last 60 feet where it smashes into smithereens." That's what she's dealing with. So I would just recommend, after all this stuff, give her a year to at least try and fix all the landmines that they don't even know about from Granger. So I don't know her from Adam, but at least she's trying to pull it out. And she's got one big pile of manure on top of her. I give her the year. And then if you don't like it, move on. But in the meantime, you hired the other guy. He screwed it all up. Nobody's fixing it overnight. I don't have enough batteries for a magic wand to do that. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
I think we've got farther afield from where this was. I want to comment upon two things here that are germane to this. I think, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Maybe the universe is gonna implode, but for once again, I'm gonna be on Sarah's side with this. I don't think I'd ever get there, but twice in 2 meetings, that's insane. At any rate, yeah, a promise was made up here that we get a look at this contract. And nothing against you, ma'am. The fact that policies change are part of life. What we did for the last 3 people or the last 20 people or the last 20 years, it doesn't matter.
Does,
No, it doesn't.
does.
It doesn't. And I'm going to explain, I'll explain you why it does, particularly in this instance. For this point in time on this issue, the voters and the taxpayers of this township are trying to get a modicum of accountability up here. And clearly, as was just voiced the last time we had the manager up here, they ran the whole thing, they ran the train off the track into the ditch, into the hole. And that's because there was no transparency, no accountability. You just sat here now after you said you were going to get us a look at this contract. Nope, that didn't happen. So once again, the taxpayers are in the dark here. Bad move. That's one. Number two, you just drop the hammer. Right, but we're approved. When we can't even define, which we just had this conversation, what this job actually entails. And we're talking about a reshuffling of what the job entails on what might appear to be a fairly substantial level. How much time is spent with this budgetary stuff? And now we're going to hire another person to be the hornswoggler, as they say, or the chief of that part of the puzzle. How is that possible? That's nonsense. And nobody who's ever worked in any corporation anywhere in the world would say this is a good business practice at all, ever.
First of all, I didn't hear anybody say that they don't know what the job is or what the responsibilities are. Second of all, I did hear accountability, and I appreciate your saying that. My question is, how different is this new contract from John Granger's contract?
No.
Is it?
I will say to you that the only thing in that contract that I'm entitled to is what all the other employees are entitled to. The only difference is I'm non-union and I have a different salary. Other than that, I don't get anything special than what the other employees get. And I get mileage reimbursement for going to the bank or attending evening meetings other than the board of supervisor meeting.
Are you charging us when you answer my emails at midnight?
I am not, I am not. And I do
$20
answer
for the
emails
phone.
at 11 o'clock at night because that's when I have time.
I know, I'm
That's-
kidding. But still, to my question, was there any difference?
Well, it's lower,
Okay,
drastically lower. It's lower than his first initial contract.
$30,000 or more lower.
okay. Jackie, could you speak to your background in municipal government?
Yes. I started out in Bethel Township, Delaware County. I was the secretary treasurer there from 2006 to 2008. When I got there, the secretary there had stolen $2 million. And I worked for the solicitor at the time, and he asked me to go manage this municipality, and I did, and cleaned up that mess. And then I went to Thornbury Township, Delaware County as the assistant manager and the treasurer, worked there for a number of years. And then I went to Trap Borough. I ran the borough up there for 5 years. I was the manager and I was the treasurer. And Kathy worked next door at Collegeville. And then I was the director of finance for 9 years at London Grove Township in Chester County. And now I'm here.
Okay,
So I have a lot of, I've been through decades of audits, been through many, many budget processes. I know how municipal government works. And I am working to clean up a lot of stuff, and we've made a lot of progress in the last 6 months. It might not appear that way, but internally we have internal balances and checks that are in place now so that things can't go missing. And, we have Christina opens the mail and stamps it, and then she disperses it, and then the checks get given to me and I deposit it. And then we have people double check to make sure that the checks that came in were actually deposited. So there's a lot of internal control that we didn't have prior to now. So a lot of fraud will be prevented that way.
that was my next question, was what has changed in terms of checks and balances?
Yeah. I mean,
And a good auditor hopefully they did this and have done this and why they didn't accept or didn't uncover more, but they should say, tell us the process. Like they should interview you and Christina,
They
Kathy,
should.
each person, like what's the process? And then
And they should
If we're-
also ask everybody if there was fraud. They
Yeah.
should also
If they're
check to
bonded.
see if they were bonded, which they never did. There's a lot of things that the auditor didn't do, and they were the auditors in some other townships where people were stealing lots of money. So they're not very thorough.
okay. Just to, I just need to hear this again, even though it was already said. So there is a contract, but it's still at will, because usually it's one or the other.
No, in Pennsylvania, everybody's works well, so.
But not if you're under contract.
Yeah, but it's not like a 3-year contract. It's just a contract making me the manager and setting my salary. But if tomorrow you decide you want to fire me, you could do that.
Okay, okay. Well, based on all the evidence, as Barry said, I have to.
Well,
I support your hiring and under the same circumstances, I think. I mean, again, we've dialogued so much in the past week. And every question I asked, and I asked a lot, you answered very thoroughly, and I appreciate that. And I know that most of the answers were along the same lines, that you're basically inheriting a mess. And you explained it. You didn't just say, well, I'm inheriting a mess. You explained what and how and why.
I do
So-
appreciate your support, and I have no problem answering questions, especially if you're being constructive and trying to help. So, I gave you the best answers that I could. They're not always what you want to hear, unfortunately, but they are what they.
And one other detail though, when we talk about the concern with John's contract, one of the things that came up was the severance issue.
Mhm.
And I will let you know that this contract allows for 1 month of severance after a year. And it goes up to 2 and 3 and it stops there.
Okay.
So,
I appreciate your saying that publicly. It seems like a lot to me, but appreciate your saying it publicly for us all to know.
Okay, so on the approval of contract for Jeff Granger as manager,
Can I just ask one quick question?
go ahead.
And this is just friendly. Are we gonna have a bookkeeper? Do we have a designated bookkeeper? Do we have a process? Because we don't understand out here. We think, a lot of people think
This is
you're
what
doing
it's
the
like.
books.
I am training Kathy to be the treasurer. She's learning. She's been cutting the checks for the last couple of months. We've had some computer glitches, but she's doing really well and she likes doing it. And her intention is to retire at some point and then come back part-time and stay as the treasurer. So I would rather have somebody I trust and know, like Kathy, who I can train to do the job correctly, rather than hire somebody else with another background in bookkeeping who really doesn't understand municipal finance, because it's not the same as corporate. And Kathy knows that. She's been doing municipal government for what, 25 years? I've been doing it for about that long too. So that's my plan, and that's what Kathy would like to do, and I hope that the board will support that. If they feel that we need to do it sooner rather than later, I know that Dave has recommended a gentleman that he knows who works at another municipality part-time who would be interested maybe in coming down and doing treasury.
well, Jackie, I've gone on record that as much as I feel wonderful about Kathy and I think she might be the right person for us, I think we need to post that position, even if we end up with Kathy.
I agree. Hoping we end up with Kathy.
So we do, but I just think we should do that.
Right, that's all.
And we need to figure out a time frame and what this job description is and, clarify what the rate for it would be and, if it is part-time. So I think that's fair to Kathy too, to know what she's stepping into.
And that's fine, but I also want to urge the board that we not just hire anybody who has a background in bookkeeping. We need somebody that's municipal government finance.
Understood.
I
And agreed.
I agree with that, and thank you. That's what I was looking for, to find out what the plan is, so that this stops. We don't keep in this cycle. And the questions about the contract are just severance. Thank you for answering that. Term of contract, what is the length? There's a beginning and end. So there's no, so this just says we're not, it doesn't get, when does it change again? We used to do an annual contract all the way back to Allen Heist.
It has to be agreed by both parties to change this contract.
Okay, but it's reviewed annually. It's.
Well, every reorg, they either reappoint you or they don't. If they reappoint you, then they would redo the same contract.
And then the salary would be increased commensurate with what? What changes your salary?
The board.
So each year it goes up.
Well, the rest of
Percentage?
the township are under contract and they automatically get a 4% increase.
Mhm.
And that's what the board has. Kathy and Christina are the only other two employees that are not union, so they gave them the same 4% increase that everybody else in the township gets.
Mhm.
Mine is subjective to what the board feels is appropriate. Could be nothing, could be 4%. And there's no set amount.
It's not in your contract at
It's
all.
not in my contract.
So if the board decides that they're just not gonna move your pay, that's fine. You can quit, you get a severance. or-
Only if she's here for a year.
Yeah, I get paid
Or
1
2
month
years.
for a year. So if I'm here for a year, I would get 1 month severance.
But
If
if
you're
you,
here for 2
Wait,
years, I would
wait.
get 2 months severance.
if you.
If
leave
you
the
chose to quit, we give you severance.
No.
I don't think that's,
Oh, if we let her go.
I think,
They let me go.
right, but the sequence of that discussion
That's
was if she's not happy with zero, we're gonna pay her severance, and I'm
No, and
sure that's not the case.
She has to give us, what, 21
Term-
days?
Terminated by the township would then could cause severance.
And otherwise, your benefits are the same as the other non-union employees. And that's it, and that's what the contract states.
And if it's for cause,
Correct.
if it's for cause, then there is no severance.
Well, or
That's-
if she chooses to walk out, there is no
Right.
severance, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, that's what the public wanted to know, those details.
Well, I'm not gonna walk out, so you don't have to worry about that.
That's fine,
We're
but
working on getting you to walk out.
what we're trying to do as a community is not to give you or anyone else a hard time, because I will tell you, I would rather not be doing this tonight. I'd rather be doing what I'm supposed to be doing tonight, celebrating my wife's birthday. There we are. I'm here because,
That was a tough choice.
well, I'm here because I just saw something that didn't look clear. And people get upset when things aren't clear, and I always tried, I do try to help do that. I'm not trying to ever be difficult, Bernie, or anyone else on the board. My goal has always been as a resident to come in and help. And if I see a red flag, I call a red flag. That's all it is. So thanks for the clarification. That's going to help all of us now understand what the details of the contract are. That's all we needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you. George.
I just more or less what Carl said. I think it's fine. You didn't want to make the contract public until it was signed, but I think if you just gave a verbal summary, like you basically had extracted out of you in the last 15 minutes or so, I think most people will be okay with it.
Very good.
We're slowly learning about transparency.
And I did mention her salary in a lot of details at the last meeting, so it's been out there.
Okay, I'm moving for the approval of contract for township manager for Jackie Gunther. All in favor? Aye, nay?
Nay.
Okay, very good. Motion passed. Motion,
Jackie.
Thank you.
okay, where we at here? Adopt budget for 2024.
Oh, boy, I make the motion to adopt the 2024 budget.
I second that.
Okay,
Which, as you know, as we began this meeting, we were talking to Dave about, how we adopt this budget that we can't print out and see, but we don't really have a choice but to adopt it.
You need to
wanna-
adopt the budget before the end of the year.
Right.
You can always.
In a public meeting.
In a public meeting, obviously.
And there won't be another meeting before the end of the year.
Well, we do have approximately 2 weeks before the end of the year, and I recollect previous boards having to take advantage of that time between Christmas and New Year's to get their job done.
Well, Kathy will be away in Texas and I will be in Charleston.
And I
so-
was planning to be away a
Dave's
few
gonna be
days
away
too,
too.
so.
and yes, and
Well,
myself also, so.
so I'll be here, I'll meet with you, but
And we can't.
John?
Right?
John has given us an assessment, John Eldridge, that the budget's a mess. And I've only looked at part of it because I was relying on some of it being printed. But I find some things that are troubling. And if we're not representing what we know we have as upcoming expenses in the budget, why would we approve it? Now,
What-
Dave will
what-
tell us.
what-
Just right there.
What expenses are not,
To visit.
I would say the payment on the 17-year open space
That's in the open
easement.
Space budget.
I'm looking at the open space fund. And then when I turn the page to your open space fund worksheet, it is not in there, Jackie.
It is now.
Well, this is the
This is
one
the
that
point
says
is that
excuse me, this one was revised December 18th. So it got put in after this update.
we have things that have been revised, you know, an hour before this.
Well, let me ask
So
you,
that's why I'm
Kathy,
not comfortable.
Kathy's having problems printing out.
I'm not asking about printing. I'd like to know if the $78,000 annual commitment is any place in this budget, because it is not where I expect to find it.
$1,000 for what, sir?
The 17-year easement being paid over 5 years at $78,200 per year. So here we have we think we're getting things balanced, but we are underrepresenting a commitment that we've already made to residents for their open space easement. I'm looking at pages 54 and unnumbered. But so my point is, John's right. It's a mess.
It's not.
It's not thoroughly reviewed, let's say that, that's fair to say.
But I can give you expenditures line by line, which is something we've never seen in any of your budgets in this township. And they're real numbers, and they're not pretty numbers, but they're real. And I also gave you a real list of what your revenues are. They are real numbers, they're not made up, they're 100% factual. So what you're seeing in this budget, you may not like the big picture of it all, but this is where we're at. And this is not something I created, but I'm giving you a budget with real numbers in it, not flowery language and graphs, an actual real budget. So, we did post it on the internet yesterday, I believe. And
This-
Kathy's trying to print that out, and we're having all kinds of problems, and Dana was there, they were having problems with the printer. So it is on the internet.
Is today the 18th.
It is.
Yes.
Okay, and this document says last revised on the 18th. So whatever was posted yesterday is no longer current.
Explain it for us.
Correct.
But
I don't want to talk about printers.
no, we were having problems with the computer. We were making changes and saving them, and the computer was not. She called help now. They're trying to figure out what the problem is. There's issues.
There's issues with books, there's issues with. So, we talked to Help Now, and they couldn't help us with QuickBooks.
And the Excel file is not saving for some reason. We made a bunch of changes and none of the changes were saved. So Christina and Kathy had to go through it again and make all the changes and corrections. But that was done. We were trying to print it and the problems with the printer. So all I can say is, we'll make sure that the most updated one is on the internet.
But you, and so after that, we'll talk about whether you agree you have understated our open space commitments for 2024.
I don't believe that I have.
Okay, I'm sure we'll visit that topic again.
Well, and I think, one of the questions would be, again, for Dave. You know, if we approve this now so that people can get paid on January 1, which is what's necessary, right? To keep operating. How much leeway do we have to make adjustments to reopen this budget January 1?
No.
And make any necessary tweaks?
You have leeway. You can open it in January and provided, let me just get the exact language.
And let me say, we can do it in this January, but not every January, because we've had a supervisor elected this year.
That's right. You
So a
can-
new supervisor can open the
Right.
budget.
That's
So
right.
we're
Blaming
we're
Bernie.
leaning on Bernie to open the budget. If this were next year, we would not be able to do it. So we shouldn't look at this as a way to solve our inability to get a budget done on time.
So it says if the estimated revenues or expenses in the final budget or increase more than 10% in the aggregate, or more than 25% in any major category over the proposed budget. So you gotta stay within those parameters. As long as you stay within those parameters, you can make changes to whatever you adopt tonight. You can make changes in January, as long as you stay within those parameters.
Okay, so this is small potatoes compared to everything else, but for instance, when we thought we were 1,000,001 in the hole before, and we're looking for anywhere to reduce, I made the recommendation that we take away the $10,000 that was allocated for the community day, which for one reason, feeling that there's a good chance it might not happen anyway. But if we could put that back in the budget, I would want to. Now, that's a good sizable number compared to that category. Would we be able to do that?
Well, I would suggest you do, so you have some clarity. If you're going to adopt the budget tonight, you adopt the budget that Jackie says has been posted to the internet, that version.
Well, in that version, that was removed.
Okay, well, let me finish. Yeah, let me just finish,
Sure.
Dana, with the exception that $10,000 expenditure be included. So that at least in the minutes tonight, you're voting on a budget that was published to the internet with that
Okay,
additional
so I'm
expense.
throwing that back in there
Yeah,
now.
yeah, so it's back in the budget. Okay, it then can be amended. The actual document can be amended to reflect your extra expenditure.
So you're suggesting that we vote to approve.
300 sometimes in the yellow.
Yeah.
That's the.
So Dave, while they talk about the open space fund, are you suggesting if we publish? I was holding that piece of paper
Okay.
when I was talking to everybody. There's no $78,000 payment
It's not a
there.
$78,000 payment, it's 300 and some $1,000.
Not to that homeowner. So Dave, I think you just suggested that Dana's change be implemented and we approve it, and then we post what was supposed to have been posted before we approved
Well-
it. So you're suggesting we're making a post approval.
You're making a change tonight. You're approving an amendment to the budget that was posted today, I guess, by adding that $10,000 expenditure. You're voting on that tonight. That's in the minutes. The actual change to the document can occur after, because you voted on it tonight to add that expenditure to the document. You've already approved it. Just a matter of amending.
So that calculation is
Amending the
not.
document to
concern.
conform. You're amending the document tomorrow to conform with your vote tonight. That's okay. You've already approved it, and that's okay.
Okay. I would encourage our elected auditors to help us figure out what the 10% in aggregate might be and what the 25% within any category. I think that's going to be a challenge to stay within those legal limits. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I'm suggesting that. I mean, there's a million other things we could probably talk about, but I would like to see that one thing put back in the budget, and I don't know how the two of you feel about it. You'll make a motion.
You're gonna have
Okay.
to rescind the previous motion, correct, Dave?
Or do a motion to amend that. Motion.
All right, I'll
amend
make
that
a
motion.
motion to amend the motion to approve the budget with the addition of $10,000 for Parks and Rec to use for Community Day events.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so
Now,
Did you vote on that?
are we voting to approve the?
No, we were
budget?
voting to,
Approve them, you were voting to approve the amendment to the
Oh, okay.
amendment,
Yes,
to the motion.
I.
so now we're back to the
To the motion,
motion,
to the budget,
the budget, right?
as amended.
I don't think we have a choice, gang, so. We want to, people want to get paid, right? So we have to,
Go for it.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
We already made the motion.
Right.
Somebody else has to.
Wait, you know what? It is still in there for 2024. I took it out for 2025.
Let's do that.
It's still in there. Yes.
Dave, we're lost, at this point, should we just,
You're
Follow through.
okay. You're okay. So the budget as it exists,
as amended?
as
has been
amended.
Approved
Is approved, right.
and voted on?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, moving on. We're at,
Is there any questions?
new business.
No, Bernie, I'm sorry. You still need a vote on the budget.
Oh.
And I
yeah,
think
that's-
we have a couple of questions on. the
You had a
budget.
first and a second. You'd never voted. Yeah.
Right, okay. John, go ahead.
As a matter of fact, I did send an email to all the supervisors saying some of the errors and pitfalls in this budget as I had it. And I guess it's all been changed, maybe because of the email. But there's some of the things where I said there's a great shortfall in the earned income tax income that goes, I said it increased $100,000 a year every year. But now it's been reduced by 300,000 for the next year.
That was
Why isn't
corrected,
it?
John, and you didn't send me the email. I never saw the.
I did not send you because I don't want to, for you to say I'm busy. Don't bother me. You told me I don't understand financial statements. I'm not gonna send you these emails.
Well, that was changed, and if you looked at the corrected budget online over the weekend, you would have seen that.
Okay. Another thing, there is a bad relationship between the earned income tax in the general fund and in open space. There is a legal requirement of the ratio there.
I want to stop you because I've answered this question many times for you, and I'm going to explain it again so everyone can understand.
Have you finished your question?
Keystone.
Well, that's the issue. If there's 860,000
I don't
in
make
one
the
and 2
deposits,
million in the
and
other,
I don't
it's
make
wrong.
it's not wrong, John. Keystone is our tax collector. They collect the taxes, they allocate the taxes, they make the deposits into the general fund and the open space fund. All I do is record it in QuickBooks. They do the allocation, they make the deposits. I can't change that. They do their own tax calculations according to our tax rates, and they make the deposits. I do not do that. I do not make the allocations. I simply enter what they send me into QuickBooks.
Okay.
Those
It would
amounts
be
are
all
correct.
irrelevant. I have a letter from them that said there is a ratio of the earned income tax in the general fund and in open space.
You're right, and they make those
And
allocations.
it's not there. They said, and they gave you a list of payments and it's not there. So now, regardless of what they're gonna do, you can't budget for some other ratio. The budget is a ratio. It has to follow.
The amount that's in the open space is correct, and the amount that's in the general fund is correct, according to our tax collector.
The tax collector, well, I don't know how the tax collector got into it. Keystone Collects is very helpful in giving you information about it.
Right, and they give me the allocations every day. I get emails saying this much was put into the open space fund and this much was put into the general fund. And I simply put that information into QuickBooks. And those deposits match up with the bank recs. So when they send me something and they say we put $109,000 into the open space fund, it shows up on the bank statement, so I know that's correct, and that's what gets reported.
Yes, but if they say we gave you 150 or 50,000 and you put it in the wrong fund when you make your entry,
I don't put it in the wrong fund.
no, you never make mistakes. I mean,
I don't make mistakes with that. It's one page. It says open space and general fund. And when I do the bank recs, it shows you the correct amount. So even if I made a mistake,
you would
the
fix.
bank rec wouldn't work out.
Okay, you're right. But it's a
So
one
it's
half, it's a 2 to 1/2 ratio, and you can't get around it. It's illegal to get around it.
and you'll have to take it up with Keystone, they're the tax collector.
We did, and they supported it without question.
Okay,
Thanks, Bernie. Ken Allen, Ivy Lane, West Vincent Township. Dana, you had mentioned $10,000 for consideration for Community Day.
Which apparently was still in the budget.
Okay. Are there other Parks and Recreation items in the budget?
I was asked for 2 movie nights at $500 each, and that's in the budget. I was also asked about the bike fixing station. But when we originally did the budget, we were very tight and I was asked to take out anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. And that's what I did.
Okay.
Ken, I believe some members of the board still support the bike fixing station for Schoolhouse Park. And when what are the long-eared bats slowed us down last year, and we said we were told we couldn't do the work in Evans Park. The chairman of Parks and Rec and I went to the manager at that time and said, we cannot keep not fixing stuff at Evans Park. We've got to repair or replace the top lot. And so we had said, with or without the long-eared bat, we needed to have some productive change made in Evans Park. So that was a thing that Parks and Rec recommended to management. It's different management now. And I can only hope that they hear the next time Parks and Rec makes that recommendation.
Was there a cost to
Yeah,
that
it wasn't even any
recommendation?
cost.
In the grant.
I asked Parks and Rec for budget numbers repeatedly, and I did not get them. I don't know what you're suggesting or what kind of numbers you're looking at.
Jackie, the numbers were represented in the grant, which was awarded to us.
We
Well,
didn't get
if you're
the
using
award.
grant money, then you don't.
No,
need
we
to
didn't
put-
get a grant for Evans Park. We lost that grant.
You lost a grant? Not
Yeah,
one.
we didn't win it.
Oh,
Not lost. We just didn't
So it was.
win.
It wasn't-
It wasn't
Evans
the
Park.
bat.
No,
Okay.
we did not win that, but if someone were to say what the amount was, would the $10,000 cover it? I'd be willing to say, let's put that in parks and.
No, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I believe that those playgrounds are pretty expensive now.
Okay. And my other question was going to be something that you've answered, making sure that you, our liaison with Parks and Rec, have seen what's been budgeted and you're able to look and decide and can have considerations on it as well. Things have come down your pike. I know, you know, respectfully, you've been out of the commission for a little bit and not able to join us. So just to make sure that you've been able to see things coming your way.
Had I seen it, I would have shared it with Parks and Rec.
Okay, thanks. And finally, and I'm just gonna state on the record, anything that you've seen, Jackie, that you've been given, we in Parks and Recreation have not been privy to. It's been discussed. We've given our 2 cents on where we think dollars could be allocated. But at the end of the day, we never knew if anything had been
no,
submitted
and
to
I
you
know
or
that
not.
Mike Hogan talked to your chairman and gave him the phone number to the fence company and said, call them, meet them at the garden, tell them what you want, and they will give you numbers. And that never happened. And that Mike talked to him more than once, so.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not here to throw anyone under any buses. I'm just stating for the record that as much as we've talked about and implored for a budget, we never did receive anything through 2023 or 2022.
The guys need to decide what you want to ask for, what events you want to do, what, it doesn't have to be an exact number, but give me a ballpark figure, because I don't know what you're looking at doing and what you think
Yeah.
the costs are gonna be.
Yeah, we had a ballpark. It just didn't get translated, or I don't know if we had an opportunity to present it to you from all of our behalf.
So I do know that Bill met with Jackie and went over some of the requirements. I think what we must do first early in the year is request a copy of that grant application so we can all see what was envisioned there. And I hope that it would have some incremental costs. And if not, then we have more work to do on a new grant application. But the sentiment that it's our first park, it should not be degraded just because we've got an exciting new park further down the road.
Mhm.
Where we believe we've got some good substantial grant money. So anyway, thanks. I hope to see you at your reorganization meeting in January.
So thank you.
Okay, George.
I missed the last meeting. I tried to watch the video, but there's issues there, which we can talk about later. Can you just summarize why we have to change the budget after we pass it? I mean, there seems to be a concern now that what we're voting on tonight, we're gonna have to change.
I didn't accurately reflect the cost in the open space budget, but they are there. Dana has-
No, I think.
Is that the only?
No, we're not saying that there's a specifically problems. We're saying that we can't adequately see where we are now with all of these changes. We've not been able to print it out so that we could have it in front of us. It's been changed several times throughout the day and no one's really sure we're all on the same page. So I think that
I think of abundance
we
of
just need to
caution,
look at it.
abundance of caution after they adopt it tonight. They have the possibility after reviewing it, possibility if they see something in there they want changed, they can open it in January and take a vote to
It
change.
could be perfect, I'm hoping.
Stopgap in
So
January.
when will what you vote on tonight be available?
Available now.
I hear it's available now, except for this 10,000.
online. Put online.
It's just that you can't print it, that's,
Yes, apparently just can't print it.
so,
We don't
okay.
have any verification of what the last thing we all looked at was.
And I think it's back
Don't
in
have
that,
time to look at.
that one page format that makes the whole budget 117 pages instead of. Christina had done a good job of putting the data on one page, so you really could look from the budget to the worksheet. And now it's harder.
So,
So they could basically in January, if they decide they wanted to add money to the budget for other expenditures like park and rec, they could open up the budget, add those numbers. As long as they stay between 25% aggregate.
I mean, you can't add more than 25% to a particular
No.
category,
10% per particular.
25% overall.
Yeah,
10% overall to the budget.
yeah.
No, 25% overall, but 10% per category.
No, it's
right?
reversed.
Right?
It's reversed. Yeah, it's reversed.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
10% in aggregate, 25% in any category. But I do agree this is fairly confusing because many of us do budgets at home. And those are more guide to spending than somebody giving you a mandate. And so I think we have to be flexible as we look at how we spend, especially general fund monies. So it is tricky because most of us do budgets as guides rather than strictures.
Okay.
Okay. Now I believe we're ready for motion to adopt the, okay, we first, do we have a second?
This, it's been made, so you just need to vote.
Okay, so all in favor? Aye. Sarah? Opposed, okay.
No fair. You let me go first.
Yeah.
You knew it had to be fast.
That was waiting.
All right. New business, approved resolution 19-2023. Workmen's compensation coverage for Logan's Corner Fire Department, firemen, or fire department, firemen, and fire police.
I will make the motion, given that very long title, to pass resolution 19-2023.
And I will second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, approved resolution number 20-2023. The 2024 tax rate of 0.209 mils.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2023 with the 2024 tax rate set at 0.00209 mils. And I understand from the assembled that this is the same rate we've had definitely the current year. So
Correct.
it's no change in tax rate.
Correct.
And I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 9, set the date for the 2024 reorganization meeting to be January 2nd, 2024.
I'll make the motion to approve the 2024 calendar for Board of Supervisors and committee meetings.
I second it.
Okay, and discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Okay. 10, set the date for the 2024 Auditors Reorganization Meeting, January 3rd of 2024.
I'll make that motion.
and I will second that.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Okay. Number 11, approved 2024 calendar for Board of Supervisors and committee meetings.
made that one, but
Do you want me to make that?
I think
one?
I already did make that one.
Oh, you
Out of
crossed it
order.
off.
Well, we went out of order because the other ones aren't on.
Okay.
Here.
I'll make the motion to approve the 2024 calendar for the Board of Supervisors and committee meeting.
And I will second it.
Okay, Barry, you're up for this?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just
Go ahead.
Is there any chance you're gonna make these regular meetings, both meetings, instead of workshop on the regular meeting? Can we just disregard and try to debate this semantics and call it a regular meeting?
So
Good
could,
at me, let's make it a meeting.
When you say that, you mean allow for it to be a regular meeting, but not necessarily have two per month regularly, only as necessary?
Why don't we have two regular meetings? I don't understand I don't understand why we have to call one a workshop and make it as if it's going to be in the regular meeting or we may discuss something. Probably wouldn't have the business done. with us.
But that would
If you look-
require us to have two. It would.
but
would
Yeah,
put
it's
us-
optional.
just because we had some members of the table change the policy doesn't mean that we really need to set up 2 meetings a month.
Okay, so you need 2 meetings a month to pay your bills every 2 weeks.
Yep, I think
So
that's,
that
as
needs to
somebody who
happen.
gets paid once in a while, I think that's nice.
So that needs to happen. Your bills need to be paid more than once a month. So if you want to do that every 2 weeks, that's good for the contracts that you receive from the public and the contractors. Why not, if you're already meeting, you've already scheduled 2 meetings a month? Why aren't you calling them a regular meeting? What is the point of having them as a workshop? That's what I don't understand, why it's to the benefit of anything.
Because they were mandated to have 2 meetings a month.
You would be either way, if you don't have a meeting, if there's no business, you can cancel the meeting, you're allowed to cancel the meeting. Just like you would not have a meeting, you give notice to the public if you don't have your workshop. Because it's assumed you have your workshop. So you would give the same notice to the public if you don't have that. But it gives the public the understanding that you're gonna potentially do business. When you call it a workshop, it means you're probably not gonna do business. That's what
That's how we've been
customer is gonna
running
see.
it.
And that's who we're doing this for, is the people who don't understand that, and will ask the question, and they'll think, well, that seems odd. That's why I asked. I'm not trying to make your life difficult, but you're gonna meet, just call it a regular meeting. You're already meeting, and 2 meetings a month means less work, not more work.
Oh, it means more work for the staff.
No, you're still preparing for meetings. If there's a meeting to have, if it's a workshop or regular meeting, it's the same thing. And the staff load, we have enough staff, and we have staff to prepare our social media stuff. We have staff to make our budgets pretty with lots of pictures and middle pages. We have enough staff to do those things. I'm not belittling anyone. I'm saying to use the statement that it's more work, it's not. We did this forever. With a secretary and a manager forever. Long before anyone here at the table lived here.
I'm
Except
just,
sorry, in the old days.
I'm just questioning, is this something that the board can discuss and if they wanted to move forward with that, still do it at the reorg meeting, or is it too late because you would have to advertise?
You can advertise meetings anytime you want.
Okay.
So,
So if we want to have a discussion about this amongst ourselves, we can do that.
You can set the dates any way you like, and I'm just saying, if you're gonna advertise this, why not just advertise with the regular meetings? That's all, it's just,
Thank
you can decide not to, but I think the public would see it better if you called it what it is.
I would like to table this item because I've seen some errors in it, and I think the board should review it. Right now, it's a conflict of several of the scheduled meetings with the reserved date for workshops. It affects, I think, sustainability and planning. And so I think there, if I could see those two things easily, we should take time to look through it before we pass it. And we can pass it at the reorganization meeting.
Yeah, I did ask about the traffic safety, which had for every month, and it's really only supposed to be every other month according to resolutions. So that's something that needs to change too.
Right, so I think we can have that cleaned up and address it at the reorg.
We don't have to do it now, do we?
No.
Does it have to be
No.
advertised at this point?
No, you can decide in January.
Flush that out.
You agree?
Yeah, I'm fine
Okay.
with that. If we
All
want
right,
to just
we're good.
really go over, because I think there were a lot of conflict dates too, just to verify.
Well, that's what I saw was those conflicts. And
Okay, next on the list is,
wait, do we vote it down?
do we vote it down? Dave?
There was a motion, wasn't there? Was there no second? I think I made the motion. I think somebody,
I think we seconded it.
right, so I think we can't just move on. We need to vote. Or
Well, you
rescind-
would,
or
or
rescind it. Withdraw.
withdraw the motion.
I withdraw the motion.
Okay,
I'll second that. So we'll come back to this.
okay.
Vote on withdrawing the motion.
Okay.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
I
All right, withdraw. Next is public comment on non-agenda items. Okay.
You were your first. You know this.
Hey, Diane, nice to see you.
Hi, Diane Phillips. I'm on Black Horse Road. And normally I don't come to these meetings. I'm a university professor at a local university and I teach on Monday nights. Well, the semester's over. We're doing final exams time right now. So now I have time. And the reason why I'm here tonight is because one of the other things that I do when I'm not teaching and being a professor is I am a committee person for the Democratic Party. And probably because of that sort of visibility, I've been getting a lot of phone calls and emails and, outreach and everything. Somebody, bumps into me at the library or something like that. They want to have a word. And there's a lot of concern out there in our township about the way things are running in the township. And, I know that this is really a thankless job sitting here tonight. I wouldn't want to do it. And I know that you're here because you have the best interest of the people in the township itself and the future of the township at heart. That's why you do it. But I was wondering if maybe we can have a little bit more of a macro sort of look at things and see if there would be some way that now that we're growing, we're becoming, more and more diverse. Lots of different types of people are moving in. We're having lots of different pressures from development and other things going on. Because of this, I think it is necessary to have some sort of a set of rules or procedures or something like that on governance and how things work. It would allay the fears, I think, of a lot of folks in terms of transparency, having a say, being confident that things aren't being pushed under the rug, that there's no nepotism or anything like that. So I wanted to introduce you to a colleague of mine who you all know and love. Her name is Megan Emery. She's spent her career in human resources. And I think she has a lot of really great ideas. So I hope you can listen to what she has to say because she has a set of neat suggestions for you moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Megan Emery. I live at 1506 Cedar Mill Road in Bertramville. And I guess to start, I'll be reading a lot of this as I've worked on it over the past couple of months after attending these meetings and seeing what occurs. Not all so good and not all so pleasant to be a part of. But I guess to start, I want to say that I do thank you and I appreciate the work that you do and I appreciate living in this community because of the involvement of so many of the residents in such great things like litter lifters or the Clean Energy Task Force or the Historical Commission or Movie Night in the Park and the Fall Fest. All are things, a lot of work that you do for the community and the residents that live here. So I'm very grateful to live in such a beautiful area where a township encourages resident involvement and supports community initiatives. I wanted to say we live in a mecca that draws biking and hiking enthusiasts, cheese lovers to the Bertrand Farm on Friday evenings, gourmands to the Butterscotch and the Bertrandville Cafe, and we are home to some very fine artists and craftspeople. So thank you for all that you do. That said, there's a cloud that hangs over this township right now, and it largely has to do with the prior management of John Granger. And I think in order for this, you want to look at it as this can never happen again. And you want to look at how did it happen in the first place? In addition to how did it happen in the first place, what took so long? What took you guys so long to recognize that he was a bad actor in this job? I spent 2 years coming to this meeting for the first time and immediately could see he was a bully. He was rude. He dismissed the audience. He kept his head down when people spoke to him. And it wasn't, well, why didn't you notice this? Why didn't you do anything sooner?
We did actively work on this amongst ourselves, meetings with John, and tried to bring about change. But as proved in the end, he was just John. And that was his means was bullied the staff. Yes, bullied residents. And eventually we let him go.
Well, I could tell you,
Why?
it took me about 6 months to be absolutely certain that he was snowing,
That he was what?
that he was snowing,
Right.
Yeah, he
because
was
he's very, very good at it.
very,
Yeah.
very good.
But you could see it in, you know, as an audience member, you could see he was snowing people. He was a bully, and he was a bully so he could snow you, and that you would leave him alone.
But just because you know that doesn't mean you can just say, remember, we're a board.
Okay, so
One
when you
person
say
can't
that,
say, you're out of here. And you can't just throw somebody out without proof, without a path forward and someone else to run the place. Part of getting a forensic audit was to see if we would actually catch them doing something. Okay, it was all a process. So when you say it took too long, I would agree it took too long, but it took the amount of time it had to take to get everyone on board and to know that we had something in place, like Jackie, like we couldn't just throw them out the door with that huge mess and not have someone step in there. We would be in serious trouble right now. Not that we're not in serious trouble, but we have someone working on it. Someone who understands it, and I think someone who is pulling us through. So I would love it to have gone down differently, but I think there were a lot of things we couldn't talk about.
I understand that too. That you can't talk about personnel or personnel decisions.
Or things that you're not sure are actually true.
But you did know that he wanted to work for another community or was to work for another community on a part-time basis.
And
we knew in the audience
I
that
don't
he
think
went.
anyone wanted him to do that.
We agreed to him doing that.
Exactly.
I didn't,
But
but
we
it didn't
knew,
matter. He still
if
did.
I can say this, we knew he wasn't doing his job because whenever we would come to these meetings, there were treasurer reports that were not ready. He didn't get to this, he didn't get to that. He didn't have the manager's report. And then it comes out, well, he was working 2 days a week. Well, how does that get allowed? How does that get allowed that he works here 2 days a week, makes 150,000 or some amount like that? And there's not, you guys aren't really on him saying, where are you? You know, this job is Monday through Friday. You have calls to return. You have these things to do and you're not doing them. So don't let it happen again. Jackie may be great at your job, but know that for a fact. Do reference checks. Be clear on everything you do and know what the requirements of the job are so you can hold the person accountable to those aspects of the job. So I think this has been said, a lot of stuff has been said before and tonight, but again, nothing against Jackie, but why wouldn't you have sourced other candidates for this position? Coming off of a disaster like John Granger. Why,
Excuse me, I just want to say that I think that Jackie is a huge part of why John Granger is not here. I owe her that debt of gratitude of standing in front of everybody and telling the truth and uncovering things that were hidden from us.
I get that.
So
But does that qualify her to the role of township manager? Nothing against her, but she did a good job. She came in and filled in and identified things that John Granger wasn't doing. But does that qualify her?
she did have a qualification of that.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
No, I'm just saying, say, oh, we love you, thank you, here's this job.
They did check all of my references.
Okay,
I called all of her
Anything
references, they were
for me,
wonderful.
All of my audits have always been clean.
I believe
Feel
all
free
that.
to-
I'm just saying, I find that there's a lack of rigor on your part as Board of Supervisors in overseeing the management of the township staff. And that so many things went wrong, particularly the audit. And that brings me to, if an audit was due by April 1st, and that is the basis for what we do as a municipality, we are required to do that. How did we not know we missed that April 1st date in April?
We did know that.
And then what was reported to the public about that?
I'm not sure that the board knew it in April.
So in saying that, in doing postmortems,
And he told that our auditors to wait until the Markham audit was done before they scheduled their audit.
okay.
He
so the-
left in the middle of June.
Yeah, the Markham audit was done February. I think that was their paper
There was
report or verbal
still some-
report.
Yeah.
But why didn't you guys know, or do you guys know that there are a list of requirements, a list of dates that you guys have to get reporting done into the state or county or whoever it is? And are there other dates that we've missed because of John's mismanagement beyond this audit that has now affected our ability to get grants and also to work on a public safety building, which was a high priority come 2 years ago? So,
The second class township code for Pennsylvania states forth all the dates and things that govern local government. It
okay,
gives you the dates, it tells you the budget process, it tells you the audit process, it's everything that governs us.
okay,
So that's where that's what we follow. And that's what
Okay.
You should always follow. I can't speak to what was done in the past, but we're on track with it now.
and do you guys know those dates? Do you oversee those dates and you make sure that, I mean, what if Jackie was like John? I mean, what if? I am sorry, but what if she was like John and she didn't convey those dates? Would you know the audit was due and the audit date was missed on April 1st? Did you know that was a due date?
I confess I was not up to date on that. And back in August or September, I asked what the dates were for the budget. And I didn't necessarily get a complete response.
So I think if again, you are wise and you do a postmortem of what went wrong, and you don't want it to go wrong again because you've lost credibility with the residents, with all the good work you do, with all the great things you do, this thing about township governance is a concern. And getting it corrected is a concern. And John has come to every meeting and done significant amount of work every day before each of these meetings, presents concerns. He's usually, or has been until lately, dismissed as being maybe not relevant. But had we maybe listened to John a little bit more closely, some of these issues could have been resolved sooner instead of dismissing him. And so my concern or my wish is that you guys do something so this stuff doesn't happen again. And that, you return this community to something that we're really proud of from not only the governance, but all the things you do. We love living here. So thank you, but this has got to be more, you got to pay more attention to the township business stuff, whatever that is.
Thank you.
And I do think that as much as we keep, talking about John, and certainly he's done a number on this township, we have to pick a date in the sand where we're no longer talking about John.
And I think that
Okay?
date,
And that's
that date
now.
should be after, or you go through and you know everything that went wrong, everything that was missed, and you have methods in place and follow-ups in place that it never happens
I
again.
think we can do some of that work without mentioning the name. This
Yeah.
is too much like every, I've had a lot of new managers whose first thing was to blame the old one. And I think we have to accept responsibility. So I would prefer, we're looking at the 1st of January at the date that Jackie's been here 13 months already. Dana will have had her 2 years. Bernie will be starting on his 7th. So I think we take responsibility and we stop talking about the previous manager or what happened. We might have to say that in the who signed that document where there's a specific question that relates to a specific name. But we've got to get out of living in the past.
I think you get out of the past when you do better in the,
I agree.
in the present and in the future.
I
And
heard-
that's what-
I heard
Right.
that sentence not come out of your mouth a little while ago when you said, and we love living here. I thought she's going to say, but you've got to do better. So I agree with you.
Okay, thank you.
Julie.
Hi.
Julia Brendel, 2472 Flowing Springs Road. So thank you. And the Eagles are winning 10-0 for anyone that cares. I won't mention the name, but I'm going to mention the previous manager. When the previous manager came to you and asked you if it was okay if he accepted a position in another township, which was clearly going to be taking away from the time that he was spending in our township, which at the time was clear that he wasn't doing his job to begin with. And Sarah said she agreed, go ahead and do it. Dana said, I didn't want him to. Bernie, what was your feeling there?
Questioned him as to when he thought he was going to be able to do it. He said weekends and nights. And that's what he gave us.
Okay.
He also insisted that if there was any problem whatsoever, he would quit immediately. And that, I still said I was uncomfortable with it, but
Okay. So
he did not quit immediately.
is that something that without a vote should have been allowed?
You mean a public vote?
A public vote, a private vote, a vote like you had one person that was on the fence, one person that was against it, one person that was for it. Is that something that should have been allowed to happen?
I think that was more a matter of courtesy, his asking us.
He was gonna do it anyway.
He was gonna do it anyway, and
Well, we know that.
what's
He told
to
us, he's
stop
gonna do it
someone?
anyway.
What's to stop someone
Right.
from working a part-time job when they're not?
Was that in the contract that he was allowed to work a part-time job?
Didn't have anything that said he could not.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Right. I absolutely agree that there has to be a date where we say, okay, we move forward from now on and we stop talking about all of the things. And just like Megan said, maybe after we figure out what all the different things that went wrong. And Jackie has been, I know, untangling the knot that was made in the last few years. And I stood up here many times questioning him and trying to get him to give me honest answers, which we never got. And yes, sitting here at these meetings when the Eagles are on and it's 9:00, it's 9:07 is not fun. I just want to make sure that, and you say you all take responsibility. I just want to make sure that, it doesn't happen again. And there's got to be a way that if maybe it would have been a good idea to have a public meeting and say, hey, our township manager wants to moonlight. How do we all feel about it? And have an opportunity for some public comment. Because I don't think anybody that's in the room would have said, that sounds like a great idea.
Well, I think it was his undoing.
Thank you.
I will say, I think it was his undoing because
But we all know he was doing it last year, but nothing happened till June.
he's not around to cover his tracks.
Oh, yeah.
The way he was before and things came out.
All right.
Gary?
You're not. Jim Scaparotto, Buttonwood Lane. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity again to speak. And good evening to everybody. So the last time I was here, I know I spoke up a lot and took up a lot of time. I promise I won't this time. But some of the things I brought up last time, I've been further informed about. And I just wanted to say that Tracy has been really excellent. She's been very responsive.
Very good.
She is very good. So I would suggest you retain her.
Thank you.
If you're able. So I'm continuing to work with her and gather more information. So she is a pleasure to work with. I believe in balance. So, you know, there's been a lot of negative stuff as usual at these meetings. But I think that the township is really awesome. And there's some amazing things that we're doing. Just a quick plug for the litter lifters. We had an event yesterday. We had many events, and Beth is here in the room. So, you know, she takes most of the credit for organizing everything. But there are a lot of events in December, and I'm sure next year we're going to have a lot more. You can follow everything on West Vincent Voices or the Instagram account. The other thing I would just say, again, not to talk all Buttonwood stuff, but cheers to the township. Again, there was some activity today. One of our old, it looks like one of the old Buttonwoods fell and fell on part of the bridge. And they were out immediately. And I guess they cleared it. I did not get to see everything in what happened, but again, there was a quick response to take care of that. So just thank you. And for everybody, hey, look, this is good stuff that we get to, you know, kind of exercise our rights and be present here. And I agree. And I think everybody knows, but it's worth being said that this really is a wonderful place to live in West Vincent Township. I'm so happy to be able to live here amongst these nice residents and a fine board. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep. Have a good evening and happy New Year, happy holidays to everybody. I haven't heard anybody say that.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate that.
I'll make this quick. I was actually kind of getting up to say the same thing, but I will tell you now that the Democrat committee has spoken, since I'm with the Republican committee, I'm just going to throw my 2 cents on it. Real quick, you know, when Mike Schneider and John Jacobs was here, they cleaned up a big mess that had happened before, put a lot of money in the account, did very well. And this mess, however it has come to be about, I'm glad the Democrats are now talking about how disappointed they are because these were your candidates. And so you get what you vote for, and that's what it is. Now, everybody makes mistakes. There are issues, there are problems, but I'm just pointing out that these were your candidates that you put in. So, but I think they've learned their lessons, and I think, and you know, at a cost to the township, but you know, it's along that way. I think it might have been better if it had been George and Tom in, but we'll never know that. But that being said, I'd like to thank you guys for this year. There's been a lot of hopefully redemption coming out of the issues, and you've all been very cordial, and I'd like to thank you for that, and I appreciate it. And Christmas miracles or Hanukkah miracles or Kwanzaa miracles or whatever it is, tonight, Jamie and I agree. And I think for the first time, I saw Carl Brockwitz actually put his hand over his heart for the flag. So true miracles, true miracles. Oh, you didn't? Oh, well, don't be angry. It's Christmas. It's Christmas. Okay, it was good until then. But anyway, Merry Christmas to everybody, except for those that are angry. So God bless everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One last go,
It's tough for him.
just one. I'm a little dismayed that it seems like we're going down the same old path. We're gonna hire our friends, We're gonna hire people we know from previous jobs. We're gonna do all that stuff. Why don't we just have an actual comprehensive look? Maybe we should advertise a job, look and see who's available, who's interested, all that kind of stuff that you would find in industry. The rest of the world works that way. Personally, as a manager, I made it my, and it was not required, but I made it my duty not to hire my friends, my relatives, or somebody I knew from previous jobs just because they were there on previous jobs.
She's been here for years before I got here,
Well, I'm just saying,
and she's been here for years before I got
you hired your friend the lawyer. True?
We did interview four
here. They
other
interviewed many
lawyers.
I'm asking, much as was asked, a little bit of, you're an HR person, you get this.
We did
A
not.
little bit of rigor, a little bit of policy and procedure where we actually look at people, you know, it's like I did an exhaustive search and I decided I'd marry my next door neighbor. Inappropriate. Do a better job.
Thank you, Tom. Oh, George. Oh, and by the way, we still have some volunteer openings put in your volunteer form. It's online.
Looking for meeting planners.
George.
Well, okay, now that the complaint department's open, seriously, I missed the last meeting. I tried to watch the video and the sound is probably half the sound. You can't tell what anyone's talking about. Dropouts. It's terrible. Keeps happening. I don't know what to say, but December, I don't know if any of you have seen it. You should take a look at it. I mean, that's what we're putting out. No, there's no way to know what happened at the last meeting except then let a little spurts in part of it. I mean, there's something we can do.
Microphones have closer.
I don't think it's the microphones.
What happened to the table one we
So
had?
Jane, can I just?
Yeah, sure. Because I thought that was fixing it.
So it did, the microphones up there have been reconfigured and they actually coincide with the camera up here. Unfortunately, at the last meeting with all the shuffling of things at the table, when we had the people come in the next day to take a look at it, it looked like how they could recreate it was, it must have jiggled the USB cable to this. Once it disconnects from the Zoom meeting, which is what has everything, it disconnects from this, which disconnects that audio. When it came back, it was only taking the audio from the computer at that point, as well as the video from the computer. Now we know that nothing should be, touching the computer area, which is a problem that we have had in the past where people were coming in and switching the auxiliary buttons on things. So we locked up the boxes. So we try to take steps. That one we honestly were stumped about, and it just turned out that someone moved the machine enough and it pulled the cord right out. So that was unfortunate. And luckily, thank you, Barry, because I think that
No, that's not the meeting.
about the audio.
The audio on the December 4th, the last meeting where the budget was discussed,
Budget.
the audio, it's terrible. You should listen to it. I mean,
I
it's
did.
not
It's
used.
bad too. But so what happened to the table one? Wasn't that supposed to be
The table
getting?
doesn't, the table doesn't.
We don't
go
need it
anymore
anymore?
because as long as you use those microphones, when you speak into them, and this is recording, it should go, but you do have to speak into the microphones rather,
Okay.
But is there, I think you need to find another solution. I mean, Barry's recording works. You can hear the whole room. He has one microphone in the corner. And maybe you just need these microphones feeding the PA and record it with a separate mic. Seems like that's the simplest solution. I don't know. An audio guy should be able to figure this out in 15 minutes and just get it right. I mean, this is like it's a couple of years we've had this problem. So
Some
yeah, but then I mean, you're not gonna be able, unless you can sync that with the video. That would be fine too. I don't really care the process specifically, as long as I can hear it.
Agreed. We need, I can't believe that it's been so long that we're talking about this and we haven't changed vendors or gotten new equipment, or except we did get new equipment, right?
Yeah, we did.
So we just haven't learned how to put it to
We
optimal
get two
use.
different vendors, right? Weren't there at least two different vendors that were tried?
Yeah, and then, but like, even now, like, if you guys aren't close enough, like, I'm having trouble just hearing because if people won't carry back, but you gotta talk directly in. But yeah, we have a new sound system that went in. The biggest problem has been the camera. And that kind of feeds a lot. It also feeds the audio.
Okay.
Maybe we could add that in the budget, some more audio equipment.
Okay, so on behalf of the board, I'd like to
Wait,
offer everyone happy holidays and that's it. So looking for a motion to adjourn.
Wait, Sarah has one thing.
Oh, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Hello, time is out. I have just one additional item. At the beginning of the meeting, I announced I had felt threatened by an email saying there was a lawyer that was going to look into my behavior. So it caused me to look in more of the Open Records Act. And section 708, paragraph, well, it's 708, bullet B 611. And it says, if it gets back to page 18, the little two I's say, nothing in, wait, make sure you're clear at the microphone. Nothing in this paragraph shall preclude the release of the name, position, salary, actual compensation, or other payments or expenses, employment contract, employment-related contract, or agreement and length of service of a public official or any agency employee. So your request and our request to make the contract available to the public ahead of time is in keeping with the Open Records Act of Pennsylvania. And you would find it on page 18 of that act. But I am seriously troubled by a board that gets counsel that is contrary to the law. End of statement.
I think you're reading it wrong.
I'm reading it wrong. He'll tell us.
Well, I think that's still applying to contracts that have been approved.
I'm sorry, I'm just reading what's in the law.
Yeah.
I can't guess it, what else there might be.
Well, it's approved,
but
we can look at it, eh?
Yes.
But I could, I could make that motion to adjourn, Bernie.
Okay,
I would love to second that.
okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
That around?
I need to talk to you about it.
Who was reflection you had? 708, right?